Today I am very excited to welcome one of the most dynamic, feisty, and determined players to ever play the game. Theo Fleury is joining me on Enjoy the Grind. I have the privilege to interview this legend that played 15 seasons in the NHL with Calgary Flames, Colorado Avalanche, New York Rangers, and Chicago Blackhawks. In 1,084 games, Theo collected 455 goals and 633 assists for an amazing total of 1,088 points. Those numbers aren't too bad for an 8th-round pick. Hey, Theo.
Not too bad. That's funny. Well, the interesting thing, and I always bring this up, was, everybody's worried about what number they get drafted. And there was 415 guys picked ahead of me. So the first year I was eligible for the draft, I didn't get drafted. So there was 12 rounds, didn't get drafted. And then the following year, I got picked in the 8th round. So there was 415 guys picked before me in the draft. And today I sit 61st all time in the history of the NHL in scoring. I sit 61st. So it doesn't matter what number you get picked. It's where you finish that's most important.
Yeah. Well, welcome to Enjoy the Grind. And let's jump right into the questions. You started your junior career at the age of 15 with St. James Canadians of the Manitoba Junior Hockey League, scoring 33 goals and 64 points in only 22 games. That's insane. How did you end up on this team?
Well, I was originally drafted by the Winnipeg Warriors, who are now the Moose Jaw Warriors. And so when I was 15, I moved away from home and played for the St. James Canadians. But every day after school, I practiced with the Winnipeg Warriors every day after school. And so it was really good for my development, better coaching, better competition, all those things. The Manitoba Junior League was a great place for me to sort of play against bigger guys, stronger guys, older guys. And it really sort of set me up for the following year when I went to Moose Jaw and played my first season in the Western Hockey League.
So you played 4 seasons with Moose Jaw, and in 1987-88, you tied Joe Sakic for most points in the league with 160 points. You had 68 goals and 92 assists, and I checked out the Warrior stats, and the closest player on your team had 71 points. Can you tell me a bit about that year that you dominated the WHL?
Mm-hmm. Well, our team wasn't very good that year because we were rebuilding. The year before, we had guys like Mike Keane, Kelly Buchberger, Lyle Odeline, Jim McKenzie. We had a lot of great players, but we lost a lot of those guys that year, and so we were rebuilding again. And but we had an awesome power play that year, and so I think I got the majority of my points that year on the power play. And so I had a couple of wingers, Trevor Job and a guy named Bob Foglietta, and they played. We played together for the majority of the first half of the season, and then when I went to the World Junior, they traded all those guys away, and so when I got back from the World Junior, I ended up playing with a guy named Blair Atchinham, who ended up playing, 6-7 years in the NHL with St. Louis and Chicago. And so I played with him, and he had he played really well the rest of the year. So, but I don't know how I finished 100 points ahead of the second leading scorer on the team, but it was just one of those things that, most nights when we, scored goals, I either scored the goal or assisted on it. So it was pretty awesome.
You also recorded 235 penalty minutes that year. Imagine how much points you would have had if you stayed out of the box.
Well, it was more survival than anything else, because like I said, we sort of got rid of a lot of our team that year, and so a lot of our tough guys, left as well, and so I had to protect myself every night because every team was, they knew if they could shut down me that they would have a good chance of winning, and so I had to stand up for myself, look after myself, and so that's where the 235 penalty minutes came from.
It's also pretty cool that you still hold the Warriors record with 472 points.
Yeah, I don't think that one will ever be broken, that's for sure.
Definitely. So being one of the smallest players in the game, you always play with an edge. Did you find that you drew players into a lot of retaliation penalties?
Yeah, that was part of it, but there was back when I played, there was still a red line, there was still hooking, there was still holding, there was still all of that stuff, and so in order for me to do what I do best, I need room on the ice, right? I need to have room to be able to do all those things that I do really well, and so I adopted this very aggressive style of play early on in my junior career, and what happened, it allowed me to have room on the ice, and so when I got to the NHL, that didn't change, and so I was a very highly competitive guy. I hated to lose, and because I hated to lose, I had to bring some intangibles to the rink, because everybody was, let's see, they were 6 inches taller than me and outweighed me by 50 pounds. And so, I had to develop this certain style of game where the guys that I was playing against knew that I couldn't first be intimidated, that I was going to give it back, all those things. And so that created, like I said, it created room, and it created opportunities for me to play well. But I was also a great penalty killer. I was a good face-off guy. I played on the power play, all those things. And so what I always tell young kids is if you're struggling to get ice time, then you need to get better at all aspects of the game and become a really more well-rounded player, because if you have more, if you can kill penalties, if you can play on the power play, if you can take face-offs, so you can play in the last minute of games when you're holding on to a lead, that's how you get more ice time. It's not because I was getting 100 points a year is the reason why I was getting more ice time. It was the fact that I became a real more rounded hockey player, and the game isn't just about scoring goals and making plays. It's about defending, it's about killing penalties, it's about taking face-offs. It's all those little things that matter to coaches, right? And I learned early on in my career, if I wanted to get more ice time, it wasn't because I was scoring goals and making plays was the reason why I was getting more ice time. It was because I became a more rounded player. And the more rounded player you are, the more opportunity there is for you to play more.
Nice. Yeah, you're definitely right. So you were selected to represent Canada twice at the World Junior Championships. What was it like pulling the Canadian jersey over your head?
Yeah. Well, when I was 16 years old, Hockey Canada started the Program of Excellence, which is now still around, that's almost 30 years later. And so I was one of the first kids to go through the program. And so I played for Canada 10 times in my career. So I played under 17, I played under 18, I played 2 World Juniors, 2 World Championships, 2 World Cups of hockey, and 2 Olympic Games. And it was all because of they created this program called the Program of Excellence, which gave guys like me opportunities when I was younger to play in international competitions. And so, every time you put that jersey on, basically Canada shuts down for 2 weeks and everybody's in front of their TV sets, cheering us on. And so it's always a huge thrill to put on the jersey. It's always a huge thrill to represent your country because, in Canada, hockey is like religion. And especially when you put on the maple leaf on your chest, with that comes a lot of responsibility as well. But it's a
Definitely.
huge thrill every time you get to do that.
Yeah. I would love to put on the Canadian jersey one day. That'd
And
be
you
awesome.
will. And you will. You just keep working hard and, improving. If you improve every year, that's the most important thing.
January 4th, 1987. The attorney in Czechoslovakia is best remembered for the infamous bench-clearing brawl between the Canadians and the Soviet Union, where they had to shut the lights off during the fight to settle everyone down and try get everyone off the ice. Do you remember how it started?
Yeah. So back in the day, the World Junior Tournament was completely different than the one you see now. There was no quarterfinal, there was no semifinal, and there was no final. It was just a round robin tournament, and you played every team once, and the team with the best record won the gold medal. So we got to the final game against the Russians, and the Russians had a horrible tournament. And whether they beat us or not, they were going to finish in 6th place, no matter what. And we had to beat them by 5 goals in order for us to win the gold medal. And we were well on our way to accomplishing that when this brawl happened. And, the game was chippy. It was dirty right from the get-go. And, a guy named Everett Sanapas, who was the first-round draft pick of the Chicago Blackhawks, him and this Russian guy started throwing punches. A bunch of us went over to see what was going on. I got cross-checked from behind. My teammate jumped in with me, and then next thing you know, there was a line brawl on the ice. And then about a minute later, I looked up, and both benches were coming at us, gloves flying everywhere, guys throwing punches. And so we brawled for about 45 minutes on the ice. And they thought by turning the lights off that would get us to stop. No, that even escalated the brawl even more than what it already was. So we finally stopped. We cleaned up the ice. We were sitting in the dressing room, and a guy named Dennis McDonald, who was the president of Hockey Canada at that time, came into the dressing room and basically said to us, "We've been disqualified from the tournament. Pack your gear. We're out." And so we all got kicked out of the tournament. We all got suspended. But what was really cool, what happened the following year, is we went back to the World Junior, and the World Junior was in Moscow that year. And we beat the Russians 3-2 in the same rink that Paul Henderson scored the game-winning goal in 1972, which was the first Canada-Russia series that was ever played. And so, it was kind of a sweet revenge that we went back to, went right into Moscow and beat them for the World Junior right in their own backyard. So that was pretty cool.
Didn't you win the tournament MVP that year that the
I
year
was on
following
I
that
was
you won
I
the
was on the
gold?
All-Star team. I was on the All-Star team with Sergei Fedorov and Alex McGillney. I think Greg Hoggood, Jimmy Waite was on, and I think Teppo Numminen was the other defenseman who was on the All-Star team. So yeah, pretty cool stuff. And I was the captain too, so which was pretty awesome.
Yeah. You were drafted by the Calgary Flames in the 8th round, 166th overall in the 1987 entry draft. Do you remember where you were when you found out that you were selected by the Flames?
I was at my mom and dad's house, and the phone rang about 6 o'clock at night, and a guy named Ian McKenzie, who was the head scout for the Calgary Flames, called me and told me that I was drafted by Calgary. So pretty cool stuff.
Yeah. And you just tied Sakic for the most points in the WHL, and he was selected in round 1. But like you said earlier, it doesn't really matter.
Doesn't matter what number, right? Because, you know, if you're drafted like 212th overall or number 1 overall, you still have to go to a training camp.
Sorry, we had some technical difficulties.
So we're back. We're back.
We're back. So you finished out your junior season in 1988 and then briefly joined the Flames affiliate team, Salt Lake Golden Eagles of the IHL, for the playoff push. You had 16 points in 8 playoff games and helped the Eagles win the Turner Cup championship. That must have been a great way to break into that franchise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was fun. You know, I went right from Moose Jaw, so I finished that year and went to Salt Lake because I signed my first professional contract with the Flames right after we won the World Junior, and so I finished out the season in Moose Jaw, and then they sent me directly to Salt Lake when I was done, and so and yeah, we went on a run down there and ended up winning the Turner Cup. So it was pretty cool. So I had 2 championships in like 6 months.
Nice. As a rookie for the Flames, you scored 34 points in 36 games and added 11 more during the playoffs to help Calgary win their first and only Stanley Cup in franchise history. Can you tell me a bit about your rookie season and what it felt like winning the Stanley Cup?
Yeah. Well, you know, considering the fact that, you know, I was told my whole entire life I was too small and I was never going to make it. Not only did I make it, but you know, to not only make it to the NHL, but then, you know, 6 months after I got called up, you know, we're carrying the Stanley Cup around the Montreal Forum. So, you know, and what a wild 18 months, because I won a World Junior, a Turner Cup, and a Stanley Cup in 18 months. So I had 3 rings in 18 months. So, and you know, my role on that team was, you know, I was the 4th line centerman of the Calgary Flames that year. I was the 4th line centerman. I was playing, you know, maybe 3-4 shifts a period. I played on the power play, but other than that, you know, I was basically a role player on that team. And so, but what a team it was, you know, was a great team. You know, when you look at that lineup. You know, Joe Newdike, Gary Roberts, Hockenlube, Joe Mullen, Dougie Gilmore, Colin Patterson, Joel Otto, Lanny McDonald. You know, it was from top to bottom, you know, a great team, and ultimately, you know, like I said, it We ended up winning a Stanley Cup, which is, the ultimate in anybody's, hockey career.
Wow, that's amazing to win the cup. And especially after winning 2 championships and all in 18 months.
I know, crazy stuff. I was like, this is easy. It's going to happen every year now, And then I played another 14 years in the NHL and never got enough. Closest I got was when I went to Colorado, and we lost to Dallas in Game 7 of the conference finals, and Dallas beat Buffalo to win their one and only Stanley Cup that they have. So if we would have beat Dallas, I would have 2 Stanley Cups.
So in 1990-91 season, you scored a huge goal in the playoffs in Game 6 against the Oilers, where you famously slid the entire length of the ice and before crashing into the boards. This goal is still shown on highlight reels to this day. Can you describe that goal and what you were feeling?
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say that playoff series was one of the greatest playoff series ever played in the history of hockey. It was against 2 rivals who did not like each other. And, when you were putting on your equipment to go out and play in that series, you weren't putting on your hockey equipment. You were putting on a suit of armor because you were going to war. Okay. And I had scored 51 goals in the regular season, and I hadn't scored a goal in the whole entire series until that goal, right? And so we were actually down in the series. We were down 3-1 in the series. We won Game 5 in Calgary to go back up to Edmonton to play Game 6. And if we didn't win Game 6, we were finished. Season's over. And it was a great played game. I think it was 1-1 after 60 minutes, and I was lucky enough. Messier was trying to throw a cross ice pass to somebody, and I just stepped in and got sent in on a breakaway, and then I had to face Grant Fuhr, and my sort of forte. I never missed breakaways, hardly ever, and so it was me and Grant Fuhr, and I was able to sneak it 5-hole, and then I went crazy after that. So, I always tell people I was practicing my curling slide, going from hack to hack in the curling ice. But it's still to this day one of the biggest goals I've ever scored. The celebration was not planned. It was just kind of off the top of my head. And, obviously I was very excited to score that goal. And, I would have never thought that the whole celebration would be continually played over and over again on TV as one of the greatest celebrations in playoff history. So.
Well, it is one of the craziest celebrations, so
That's
kind of
right.
what you expect.
Yeah. So no, it was good. It was good. Unfortunately, we lost in Game 7, so in double overtime.
Yeah.
Heartbreaker.
Yeah. What were the Battle of Alberta games like back then?
War. They were war. We were trying to hurt each other every shift. Yeah. It was mean, it was tough, it was I would say that after every game we played against Edmonton, every single guy in the dressing room had an ice bag somewhere on his body. That was old school. That's what we call old school.
Old school hockey.
Yeah, that's right. No rules. Prison rules.
Yeah.
And the refs let us play.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's old school.
Yeah.
So I'm a huge Oilers fan, and it's nice to see Battle of Alberta heating up back again.
Yeah, it is. Unfortunately, this weekend wasn't very good for my guys, but good for you guys.
Obviously good for us.
Yes.
Whooped them 7-1.
Yeah. Yeah. The only reason why it was 7-1 is because I wasn't playing.
Yeah. Well, you would have had to start winning draws versus McDavid, and that's a whole
Easy.
nother story.
Easy. I'd snap the arms right off of his shoulders.
Mm-hmm. He would have burnt you.
No. He would have had 0 points in 2 games if I was playing.
Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm. Guaranteed. Guaranteed.
How much would you have? How much would you would have had?
I'd probably had 3 or 4.
Well, by the time that was then, you probably. How old are you now? Like 50 or something?
I'm 52, so
Yeah, you would be like, ugh.
I'd be okay.
So you set a record in 1990-91 that still stands to this day. Do you remember what that record is?
3 shorthanded goals in 1 game. Shorthanded hat trick. And it was against St. Louis. In St. Louis. Yeah. Pretty cool stuff.
That's also unbelievable. How did that happen? They probably would have been skating that next day.
Yeah, they would have been. I don't know. I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. It was the year I scored 50 goals that I had that shorthanded hat trick, and that particular night I had really good legs. I felt good, and well, I don't. Do you remember a guy named Adam Oates?
Yeah.
Okay, so he was playing the right side on the power play, and he wasn't very fast. Like, he wasn't a great skater. And two of the shorthanded goals, I just beat him up the ice on a breakaway, right? And so I think the goalie was Vincent Riandu, and he had one of the biggest 5 holes I've ever seen. He could drive a city bus between his legs, and so I think all 3 of the goals went right between his legs.
Wow.
So, and all the goalies were stand-up goalies back then. There was no butterfly. They were all stand-up goalies before, now every goalie butterflies, right? So, the 5 holes were a lot bigger back then because goalies stood up, and they didn't do the butterfly thing. So
during the 94-95 lockout season, you played for Tappara in Finland. What was it like playing over there?
it was awesome. I had a blast. Yeah. They say the Finnish league, the Swedish league are 2 of the best leagues in the world. And, when I went over there, it was great hockey, great fans. And I lived in a city called Tampere, and great city, lots of fun. I had great teammates, and we had a blast. And I had to, the lockout started right after the exhibition season, and so it was like getting towards the end of October. And I called my agent. I said, I got to play somewhere. I don't care where it is. I'll play. I'll go anywhere and play. And so he found me this place to play in Finland, and I went over there and played 10 games and had a blast, and it was a lot of fun.
You surpassed Al McGinnis as the Calgary Flames franchise scoring leader with 823 career points. That must have been an amazing feeling for you and a great moment in your career.
Yeah, it certainly was. Al McInnis obviously is in the Hockey Hall of Fame now, and he was he was a great player. Uh, he was a lot more than the big slap shot. He was a really great passer. He was awesome on the power play, and so to be able to surpass him was pretty cool. And um, to play for as long as I did in Calgary, and for many years I held the record until Jerome obviously passed me, but um, had some great seasons in Calgary. I still live in Calgary. I love the city, love the people, love the fans, and yeah. So it. Anytime you break anybody's record, it's always a big thrill. So that was another one of those things that happened throughout my career. And when you play as long as I did and had the success that I had, eventually you get to that position where, and especially if you stay in an organization for a long period of time, there's always, that opportunity to be the team's all-time leading scorer, which I was for quite a few years.
Less than 2 weeks after you broke the record for the most points in a Flames jersey, you were traded to the Colorado Avalanche. What were your thoughts on this trade?
Well, I was sad, disappointed. I thought I was going to finish my career with Calgary, but unfortunately, I was going into my free agency, and um, we just couldn't get a contract done. And I knew the writing was on the wall. And like you said, a couple weeks later, I got traded to Colorado. And then when I got to Colorado, I was super excited because I basically went to an all-star team in the NHL. Patrick Waugh, Joe Sakic, Peter Forsberg, Milan Hajduk, Adam Deadmarsh, Sandis Ozolic, Patrick Waugh was our goalie. So, it was an amazing opportunity to win a Stanley Cup. And like I said, we lost to Dallas in Game 7 of the conference finals, and but the whole entire experience was incredible to play with all those guys. And you know, I love playing with Joe Sakic. He's one of the best that ever played the game, and great player, great guy. Peter Forsberg, same thing, incredible talent. So it was fun to play with those guys.
Yeah, that was a sick team.
Unbelievable. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was like an all-star team.
You signed with the New York Rangers after that and played with some more big names like Brian Leetch, Peter Nedved, Mark Messier, Eric Lindros, Mike Richter, and Pavel Bure. Can you tell me what it's like playing with so much talent?
Well, it's a lot of fun to play with guys that have talent, and um, my the year of the Olympics, I played with Lindros and York, and all three of us, played in the Olympic Games that year. So, um, that was a lot of fun. Playing with Brian Leetch was incredible. He's just a great player. And then, you know, being around one of the greatest leaders in our game, Mark Messier, although he was at the end of his career, it was still a big thrill to play with them. But more importantly, it was awesome to play for the New York Rangers and play for that franchise and play at Madison Square Garden every night was a huge thrill. So unfortunately, we didn't have the success that we should have had, which was disappointing. But wearing the red, white, and blue of the New York Rangers was a thrill every night.
You were selected to the 2002 Canadian Olympic team, and Canada won the gold medal. I looked at the roster and I was blown away by that team. That team was sick.
Yeah.
Has to be one of the best teams I've ever seen. How did it feel winning the gold again?
Oh boy. Well, I was a part of the first sort of dream team that went to Nagano in '98, and we finished in fourth place. So that sort of left a sour taste in our mouths. And having the opportunity to go back in 2002 and, having Mario Lemieux on the team was pretty awesome. And you know what the interesting thing is, when I was growing up as a kid, the Olympics was still amateur, was considered amateur. And so I never really dreamt of, playing the Olympics. And then, obviously in 98, we were allowed to go. And then in 2002, to be a part of maybe one of the best Canadian teams ever, assembled. And here, I'll tell you a really cool stat. So I played on the fourth line with Joe Newendike and Brendan Shanahan. And if you look up our career statistics between the three of us, I think we had 1,500 goals and 3,000 points in the NHL, and we were the fourth line on that team. So it just goes to show you how awesome that team was, and then ultimately, winning the gold medal was, to this day, one of the biggest thrills, my whole entire life.
Like you said, you played for 2 World Junior Canada teams, 2 World Cup Canada teams, 1 Canada Cup team, 1 World Cup of Hockey, and 2 Canadian Olympic teams. Man, that is amazing. What team or tournament was your favorite?
My favorite was the World Junior, winning the World Junior, because it was the first time I'd ever won anything at that level. And, there's no greater feeling, than standing on the blue line, and they're playing our song, and you got a gold medal around your neck. And so that was the very first time, I experienced something like that. And subsequently, I had many opportunities throughout my career to play for my country. And to this day, it still ranks up there with, some of the greatest accomplishments of my hockey career was having the opportunity to play for Canada.
You were selected to 7 NHL All-Star games. Do you have a favorite game that you attended?
So I played with Wayne Gretzky in his final All-Star game in Tampa Bay. And it was me, Wayne Gretzky, and Mark Recchi were the line. And Gretz won the MVP that night. So it was a huge thrill to be on his line and play a whole entire game with him. It was pretty awesome.
Throughout your career, you had to deal with a lot of adversity on and off the ice, but you were able to figure it out. In 2009-2010, at the age of 41, you attempted to come back to the NHL, hired a personal trainer, and showed very well in training camp. I watched a highlight that you scored the game-winning shootout goal. What was going through your mind when everyone was chanting your name again?
Well, I said I better score. Yeah, basically I got kicked out of the NHL because of my alcohol abuse and drug abuse in 2003. And, I wanted to sort of get rid of that. And so, at 41 years old, I went through the NHL substance abuse and behavioral program and got reinstated. And then I was invited to Calgary Flames training camp, which was, a huge thrill, just that alone. And then to, have the opportunity to because we didn't have shootouts back when I was playing. There was no shootouts, there was none of that. And so, and like I said, I never missed breakaways. And so, when I got the puck at center ice and went in, sort of my instincts took over, and I was able to score, and we blew the roof off the Saddle Dome that night, and You know, it was a huge thrill for me, but I think more importantly, it was, you know, one of those, um, you know, redemption. You know, it was kind of redemption when that puck went across the goal line. You know, all that stuff that I'd struggled through towards the end of my career sort of dissipated and went away, and you know, I was able to sort of leave the game on my terms, as opposed to, you know, when I did leave the game, which was, you know, as a suspended player.
That's awesome, Theo. Okay, so for some fun, I'm going to ask you a few more questions that I like to ask all my guests. Over your years in the league, who is one of the funniest guys in the dressing room?
Funniest guys in the dressing room. Oh my God, there's too many to. I think Poplinski was pretty funny. Uh, Rick Wamsley was a really funny guy. Colin Patterson was a funny guy. Um, and then, you know, there's guys like Wes Walls, who I played with, was a funny dude. Phil Housley was a funny guy. So yeah, there was lots of funny guys around. So we always, you know, we were always laughing. That's for sure. Dougie Gilmore was always playing practical jokes on everybody all the time. So
Do you have a favorite coach that you liked to play for and why?
I'd have to say Terry Crisp, because he was the coach of our Stanley Cup team, and I was a rookie that year, and you know, first of all, he gave me a chance to play in the NHL, and then you know, and then played me every single game in the playoffs as a rookie. So
Do you have a favorite teammate?
favorite teammate, Sandy McCarthy. He was my buddy.
Do you think hockey is better now or better during the time that you played?
Oh man, I don't know. Well, I think the players nowadays are, you know, faster, stronger. They take care of themselves better. All of that. But you know, I always say I love the era that I played in. You know, I think it was the greatest accumulation of superstars in the history of the game. Um, and it was tough. It was rough. It was tough. It was a more physically demanding game. It was harder to play because of the clutching and the grabbing, and there was still a red line uh, in. So, you know, I'm an old school guy, and I still love the old school, you know, game.
Nice. If you could create an all-star lineup, 3 forwards, 2 defense, and 1 goalie, that could be playing now or in the past, who would it be?
So Gretzky, Lemieux, Iserman,
Hmm.
Coffee, Ray Bork, and Martin Brodeur as my goalie.
Nice. If you could steal any player's skill, what would it be and from who?
I would like to have been able to fight like Bob Probert,
Why?
because then I would have had more room out on the ice, because everybody would have stayed away from me. Then I would have had maybe, you know, 1,500, 2,000 points, because nobody would have come near me.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite hockey memory that stands out to you?
Mm, no, you know, I look at it this way. You know, I've had many incredible experiences, and the simple fact that they told me that I would never play one game in the National Hockey League, and I actually played 15 years, and I played, you know, including playoffs. I think I played in over 1,150 games in the NHL. Won a Stanley Cup, won Olympic gold medal. So, um, you know, I think I had one of those all-encompassing careers where, um, I dreamed about playing the NHL, and when I got there, it absolutely was better than I could have ever even imagined in my own head. Um, and they actually paid me to do it because I would have done it for free. That's how much fun it was.
And I'm also a little guy too, and I love the way that you played. I saw like your highlights like on Rock'em Sock'em.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I always tell younger kids. I said, don't ever be easy to play against. Be hard to play against, right? Because if you're
Yeah.
hard to play against, that's how you get noticed, right? The greatest compliment you can be paid as a player is I hated to play against you. That's a compliment, right? And every time I see Wayne anywhere, he always tells people, "This is the guy that I hated to play against the most."
Nice. And he would say that about you? Or
He would say that about me. Yes, I hated playing against this guy, and that's the greatest compliment you can be paid to as an athlete. Because if you're
yeah.
easy to play against, he wouldn't mention you.
But if you were hard to play against, he would mention you.
Yep.
What was the biggest goal you ever scored?
Oh, well, it'd probably be the 91 overtime goal. But I also scored in triple overtime against Sweden in the 96 World Cup of Hockey that put us in the finals against the Americans. So between those two, that's probably it.
Did you catch Crosby's 1000th game the other night? And did you get a silver stick for your 1000th game?
Yeah. I have a silver stick for breaking the Flames record. I have a silver stick for playing in my 1000th game, and I have a silver stick for 1,000 points. So I have 3 silver sticks. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, and they're heavy, like really heavy. You couldn't stick handle with them.
Wow. Did you catch Crosby's game?
I caught bits and pieces of it. Yeah, so pretty awesome. That it's hard to believe he's been around that long now, and he's played 1,000 games. So. And he's had lots of
Yeah.
injuries too. So
Do you miss playing competitive hockey?
I do miss playing competitive hockey. Yep. You can never replace that.
Yeah.
It's it's like it's in your DNA.
Yeah. So what are you up to nowadays?
What am I up to nowadays? I am a motivational speaker. I'm an author. I've written 3 books, and I work in the field of trauma, mental health, and addiction. And I've been in that space now for about 12 and a half years, and I help people who struggle with mental health issues and addiction issues.
Nice.
Mhm.
Do you have any advice that you could give me or any other young players for our hockey careers?
Well, have you ever heard of a guy named Malcolm Gladwell?
No.
Okay, so he's got a book called The Outliers. You might want to go grab it and read it. Malcolm Gladwell, The Outliers. And in the book, he says if we want to be the elite of the elite of the elite in whatever field we choose, we have to put in 10,000 hours of practice. Okay. And so from the time I was 5 years old when I started playing hockey until I was 15 years old when I left my hometown to pursue my passion to become an NHL hockey player, I put in those 10,000 hours of practice. And so practice, practice, practice. Practice is skills, skating, shooting, passing, skating, shooting, passing, skating over and over and over again. And, hard work, have fun. Have fun. Always have fun. Because when it doesn't become fun anymore, then it becomes a job, and it's not fun anymore. What else? And learn how to play the whole entire game. Like I said to you earlier on in the interview, was learn how to kill penalties, learn how to take face-offs, learn how to defend the lead in the last minute of the game. Be a good teammate. Be encouraging. And compete hard every night. Right? That's why the game was invented, was to compete. Don't take a shift off. Don't, be tenacious. Those kind of things. Yep.
Thanks. That was great advice. So there we have it. 7-time NHL All-Star and one of the best to ever play the game, Theo Fleury. I want to thank you so much for taking this time with me on Enjoy the Grind. This is a lot of fun, and I'm very happy to have met you. Thanks again, Theo.
Thank you, my friend, and good luck to you and the rest of your hockey career or broadcasting career, whichever you choose. Ron McLean's going to retire one day, so maybe he can take his job.
Yeah.
Or you can replace Sidney Crosby.
Maybe, yeah.
Be a Penguin.
Yeah. So for those watching, please like and subscribe. And thanks again, Theo.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
Me too. Thanks.
Awesome. Okay.